It's my first morning trying to get off methamphetamine, and I woke up. I slept because I hadn't slept in 2 days or eaten. I woke up and I got about 12 hours of sleep, so that's good. But I woke up so instantly anxious, like a level of anxiety that is very uncomfortable, and it's hard for me to think about anything else. Like, I'm the type of person that could handle being suicidally depressed probably easier than like just even moderately uncomfortable anxiety, because it's very physical for me and mental. My heart rate is always really high. I keep a pulsometer to check it. So it was 140 this morning, which is a very uncomfortable feeling in my chest. Feels like tightness, and I can sometimes feel like my heart pounding. I was referred to a cardiologist 10 years ago for that reason. Probably more like PTSD, We'll get into all of that kind of fun stuff. But anyway, I need to recognize a good moment. So I woke up really, really, really depressed, just really anxious, sorry. It felt like, you know how you feel when you oversleep for something really important and you fly out of bed and you're just rushing and you're worrying about you're gonna miss it, you're gonna be late, whatever it might be, and it's just a really shitty feeling, And that's how I feel when I wake up almost every day, to an extent. Not as bad as when I'm trying to come off of meth, but I do struggle with a lot of anxiety, which meth makes worse, so, so I'm home alone today, which I don't like to always be when I'm really sad, just because I can get really, really far down really, really fast and be a harm to myself, like through self-harm, or, like I get nervous sometimes, so I try to reach out more now. So I texted my husband, who is at work, who is also coming off of it, trying to come off of it, which I introduced him to it. So, we have a lot of turmoil in our marriage right now, and I'll choose the parts I feel like I want to choose to share. I'm not the type of person that wants to speak on other people's life or their stuff. I feel like I have so much of my own stuff that I should focus on, because that's what I can control. And I know it's going to be necessary to talk about people in my life to do what I'm trying to do, but I just want to try to set a boundary and be like, I'm not going to come on here and shit talk somebody, because I have no right to ever do that. I don't know what they're going through. I don't know, and to get online and just talk about somebody and let that be the only version of them that potentially a lot of people could see this one day. I don't know what it's going to turn into, if anything, but to leave them defenseless to just that opinion of them, of just in that moment, or just my version of seeing them, I don't feel like is fair. That's what I don't agree with about social media, you get one version, and what is that person supposed to say? Nuh-uh, you know, like, I don't know, like, I don't believe in, like, gossiping about people, and, you know, I've done it. I'm human. I'm not perfect. Do make a lot of mistakes every single day, and I'm always trying to get better, but I do still make tons of fucking mistakes, like, as you can see. But this morning I texted my husband and I told him that I was so uncomfortably anxious and my heart rate was 140, and I was smoking weed and drinking water and trying not to do a little bit of meth to, like, feel okay, because then I'm just gonna feel worse coming off of it, and I'm really conflicted. So I was able to take 1.5 milligrams of a benzo, which I'm prescribed benzos. I just usually run out way too early. But I also was on a very high dose before. I'm also very ADHD, and that's undiagnosed, and that's another stigma I would really like to work on through this. Anyway, my stories will jump around a lot, and if I smoke meth and tell this story, it would be 100% linear. It would not be jumping all over the place. It would not be 10 mini stories in one. So I apologize for something that I meant to be like a 1-minute video. But I texted him all that, and he's at work. He's working. And I'm, like, door dashing right now under his name, because my driving record won't let me DoorDash. And he's being so patient with me getting work, because I've been continuously relapsing for a while. But and a lot of other bad shit I've put him through recently. Very shortly, I cheated on him. I forced him into a polyamorous relationship. I've self-harmed, and he's walked in on it. I've done some sex work, which I do believe is work and done in the right mental capacity with consent, and all of that is fine. That's my opinion on that. But we always had a boundary that I would only do online sex work in our relationship, and I went back to doing an in-person thing, and didn't tell him about it. Which he found out about going through my phone, which was also an invasion of privacy. But so we have, needless to say, we have a lot of turmoil between both of us right now for different things, and a lot of it is just the way we communicate. I'm so emotionally invested when we talk that I usually end up crying, just because of, like, I'm just a very emotional person, and I thought that used to be a weakness, but I have gone through so much of my life numbing emotions that some people struggle to have. Like, my husband struggles to have empathy for people, and that makes me really sad for him, because if you just can't feel things for other people, how are you ever supposed to connect with them or have a really memorable, like, philosophical, like, conversation in the middle of the night, you know, like those moments with your friends where Like, you feel like you just really connect with them on a deeper level, like on a soul-to-soul level. I could never imagine without feeling able to feel sorry for them when needed, laugh with them when they needed to laugh, like, I just feel like to an unhealthy level, I'm probably pretty codependent, but I'm realizing that maybe being as empathetic as I am, while it's gotten me in bad situations, when I was more naive, I don't think is a curse. I think it might be a blessing, because it's what is making me entirely do this. I don't like being on camera. I don't like having the attention on me. I don't like showing this version of me that has been around for a long time, and a lot of people don't even know that I am a drug addict, like, for the longest time, I was very under the radar with all of my issues, and have gotten, like, a little better and then gotten worse without anyone noticing, like, I'm just good at being okay enough to not draw attention, if that makes sense, but, I have to finish this story. I have to take a shower. So I told my husband how anxious I was, how I feel like I can't handle the feeling, how I just feel so miserable when I feel this anxious, and I feel it throughout my whole body, and it's like I feel like I can't sit down, but, like, I don't know what to do, and it's like I feel like I'm silently screaming inside all the time. And then the obsessive compulsion thoughts come in about, like, if I should use a little bit, if I shouldn't use, because I'm so tired, and at least then I could go and be productive and do something, because I have no fucking energy at all. And that's hard with meth withdrawals. You're so fatigued, but you deal with insomnia and sleep too much, anxious as fuck, depressed as fuck, so no energy to do anything, so tired, sometimes you can't sleep, you're so anxious, you're so depressed, like, it's all these conflicting feelings that just keep you feeling stuck, and it keeps you feeling stuck, feeling all of it with no distraction. So when I was being vulnerable with him, he said, I can understand that, and instead of just, like, letting the conversation go for whatever reason, that stood out to me. And when I thought about it, it stood out to me because one of the issues in my marriage is that and it's a lot more of a me thing, is I don't feel good enough. I've never felt good enough, and a lot of that has to do with my home life and things that have happened, and so, and I'm not going to get into specifics about how that plays into my, like, marriage dynamic just yet, because I want to give that the time it deserves, and I don't think I can do that right this second. I thanked him for making me feel seen in a moment where I feel so isolated and so alone and just so not well physically, emotionally, mentally. Like, I just don't feel good at all. And it's crazy because, I do it to myself. So it's hard for me to accept sympathy whenever I withdraw off of anything. Even I've withdrawn off drugs countless times, like opiates, meth, benzos, and it's all fucking miserable. And when I get through it, I'm like, I'm never fucking touching that drug again, especially meth lately, which is what I've been struggling with the most lately, because I don't even feel that good on it anymore. Like, if I smoke it, I just feel awake, and it makes me feel very, very anxious until I get high enough, which takes a long time, because for the first time ever, not that long ago, I shot up, and I shot up a few times, and it's just not comparable, I guess, is the way to put it. So the only way I can really do it and like get a fast enough response is to hot rail it, and even then I'm doing like 4 to 6 lines, which is a lot, and that same amount, if not less, put me into a 3-day psychosis about a year ago. So that kind of just shows the more you use it, you have to double, triple the amount to just even feel something, let alone that euphoric, really good, confident feeling that people associate meth with when you get that dopamine rush. Like, so for him to just relate to me in this moment where I've always felt like a good-for-nothing junkie who doesn't deserve to be with anyone, let alone anyone decent, and he has his issues, but to the core, he's a very decent human being who just struggles with his own stuff, but I always just saw us as just different. We had different backgrounds, different types of families. I have a lot of family that is estranged from me, his family seems to be very close-knit. I always told him I wish his family was a little bit like mine, because I feel like maybe like things would have been different for me in life, like maybe I wouldn't have had to go through all of the hardships that I went through, because a lot of them, addiction is what put me there. Like, does not justify what happened to me, but I put myself in a lot of dangerous situations because of my addiction, and I recognize that. I don't excuse behavior on other people's part. I'm still processing and healing a lot of things that I probably won't talk about on here, or maybe I will. Maybe I'll be so emotionally raw. I don't feel like I'm there yet. That's all I can say, and I can't speak on how I'll feel in the future. But for him, a man, to recognize that he can relate to me in a moment that I thought he would never be able to relate to me when I first met him, was really heart-touching for me. I kind of started crying instantly, and I thanked him for seeing me in my pain acknowledging my pain and relating to it. And when you feel a lot of shame, the nicest thing to hear is "me too." There's a really good doctor, Brene Brown, who has like 3 amazing TED Talks on vulnerability and shame and connecting with people. And so shame is that I am bad. Guilt is that I did something bad. And I feel a lot of shame about a lot of stuff that I haven't worked through. And society teaches it to us, my family, my friends, some of my friends, people in my life have shamed me for being a drug addict. You know, we don't view drug addicts as people in this world. Like, if she wants to let herself kill herself, just let her do it. She does it to herself. Like, you can't enable them. You gotta cut them off. You can't have you can't have a relationship with them. Like, and I think that's wrong. I don't think it's wrong to not enable someone, but no one has just a drug addiction problem. Like, drug addiction is what you're using to deal with your problem, So to take someone who's already struggling with something that can't be explained unless lived through, honestly, and to shun them and tell them, if you don't behave the way I want you to behave, you don't get love from me, is crazy to me. I have had to put distances with family and friends for their using before, but the message needs to be that I love you, I still love you, I'll never stop loving you, but I love you so much that I can't enable you to hurt yourself. But I'm here as soon as you're ready to see the what I see in you and get better, and it's hard. I get it. I get it. Like, I have addiction in my family. My dad's an alcoholic. I don't know if I'll ever forgive him for all the shit he put me through as a child and as an adult. I'd like to get there, but I don't know if I will. So, I do get the family side of addiction. Which is crazy that I can still be an addict and do this to other people. But anyway, I just wanted to recognize that the moment that I had with my husband while I'm going through so much right now with withdrawal is beautiful, and I think we need more moments like this, especially for addicts or anyone that feels judged or misunderstood. And I don't know anyone that's never once felt that way in some sort of situation, but we're a lot more alike than we are different. And I think when someone's struggling and they still want to help you, and I know my husband's struggling, I know he is. This is the first time he's ever talked about his mental health or gotten help for it, and he's 36. Like, talk about fucking, like, toxic masculinity, guys being shamed out of getting, like, mental health treatment. Like, it's a whole nother thing I'll get into. didn't tell me this month is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. It's November right now. I don't know when these videos will go up. But for us to communicate so well in such a moment of when we would normally be isolating or picking fights, because he gets super irritable. He gets super irritable with the withdrawal. My irritability comes out more as anxiety. He's apologized after and said, "I'm sorry, I don't say things like this more often." And instead of saying like, "Oh, it's okay," and going along with that narrative that lets him feel like he's not good enough, I said, "I think you should really look at this from a different angle, not trying to overstep how he should feel about anything." But I said, we've been trying so hard to communicate better our entire relationship. We've tried to work on it, and more so lately since I've been trying to get sober, because it's the first time I've ever tried to get sober was very recently in my addiction. But I'll get into that too later. But I said that you were able to recognize how I felt, relate to it, and even though it's not a good feeling, you let me know you related to it, and it helped me so much in that moment to not feel so isolated, because it's hard, because I go through detox by myself, because he works all day, and it's hard to be alone with your thoughts, and it's a struggle, so I said, I think this is a really good moment that we should both be feeling better about, not better, but we should feel good about this moment, because a lot of the times for us to get on really deep emotional talks, it's usually drug induced or it's argument induced, and then it's us making up, and it's not always that authentic, and sometimes it's just saying I'm sorry to be done fighting, and I said I think this was a really, really huge step in our communication, and I think it's important that we take a moment to realize that, because it's hard trying to better yourself as an adult when you are struggling. It's very hard to recognize that the foundation your parents laid you with isn't strong enough, and you gotta rebuild it, and there's no how-to guide on how to do that. There's self-help books and stuff, but when you're trying to be better but you're suffering, it's hard, because your suffering tells you you don't deserve to be better, so we both have realized that we have foundations that aren't strong enough, and it's you can see how I can look at my childhood and I can easily see someone that would have turned into a drug addict. It is what it is, You take, your same-sex parent is your role model for how to be a grown-up, so it's got a lot to do with, if you do have issues as an adult, I have a really hard time talking about how I feel, because my mom was always very emotionally distant, and that's not her fault. It's generations of issues bleeding into children, and impacting them as adults and then impacting their children. And I think that if we have the courage to recognize that there were mistakes, but hopefully they did the best they could with what they had and the resources they had at the time, financially, or, you know, and maybe, whose parent hasn't made a mistake, but, you know, hopefully it wasn't an intentional mistake, and they really thought that was the best way to handle it at the time. And I'm trying to recognize that so much, you know. But yeah, we both have foundations we need to rebuild, and then we need to learn new ways to basically be an adult, be a person, be our authentic selves. You know, we need to learn how to set boundaries, and we need to learn how to love ourselves, and we need to learn how to love another person, because I don't think you can love another person if you don't love yourself. I don't know how you do it, you know, which terrifies me, because I don't think I've ever loved myself. But us trying to work on all of this and it happening in this moment when we both feel so shitty, I said, I think you and I should be feeling really good about ourselves, you know. And I cried a lot on here and before, and more moments like this is what needs to happen all the time, you know. Like, if someone opens up to you and you can relate on any level, like, it just feels so good to not feel like I'm alone on this fucked up planet, and that I always feel like I don't belong in society, like I don't fit in, like I just am not as one with them, because I do think that I get stereotyped a lot, and I have been made to feel like I am different, but at the same time, to feel like the entire world is judging me, probably not accurate, you know. People probably don't see me in the store and say, oh, I bet that girl has drug addiction and financial issues and probably was in an abusive relationship, definitely an addict. You know, like, they're just going about their day thinking about their shit, you know, and I need to, like, that's that anxious part of me, thinking people are always, like, thinking bad things about me, you know. But I just wanted to make a point to say that the more that we can relate to people when they're hurting and choosing to be vulnerable with us, which I think is a big step that a lot of people unfortunately never get to, and that breaks my heart. We just have to have, like, these moments, or I don't know how we'll get better, you know? So that's all I have to say about that.